Looks like we're good to go. Okay, thanks everyone. I appreciate you making the trip down here again. Governor, I just really want to kick this off by thanking you for setting this task force up. All the members here and the members that you've coalesced in this group are just a phenomenal group of folks, and they've done a fantastic job. We've come up with some good recommendations that I think will be helpful to the legislature. Kind of how we set this committee up, just so you're aware, we set up 3 different subcommittees. As you know, property taxes, no matter what you do with them, causes a shift inside the property taxes. And so we set up a tax fairness committee. Representative Jones was the chair of that subcommittee. And also education being such a large portion of property taxes, over 50% in many cases, we wanted to make sure that we had the view from the education side as we made recommendations. And so Representative Beatty was the chair of our education subcommittee. And of course, local governments are hugely affected, and it's most of their revenue that comes from property taxes. And so we also wanted their voice and the concerns they may have as we made some of these recommendations. So we had a local government subcommittee, and Senator Hertz was the chair of that. And so just to turn your attention briefly, as you look through the report in front of you, you can see the different subcommittees, the members that were on them. And if you go to page 4, I'll just highlight a couple of things here real quick. When you did the executive order, you asked us to do several things. And so you'll see those asks, if you will, on the executive order and the recommendations that we made according to the asks that you had done in the executive order. So those are kind of correlate to the executive order. So with that, we present this to you. Thank you for setting this up.
Yeah, thank you, Director Osmondson. It's a good piece of work, and I just want to say thank you to everybody for committing your time. This is an incredibly important issue to all Montanans. As you know, back in February, we gathered here for our first meeting. This is a really diverse group, as you mentioned, bipartisan, with legislators, local officials, state agency leaders, association representatives, researchers, stakeholders, and generally advocates for reform. Each of you brought a very important voice to this work, strong expertise, and a unique perspective. And I appreciate the breadth of input. It was a hard job that you all came together to rally around. As you know, I charged the task force with addressing rising property taxes and to restrain the growth of those taxes to help Montana homeowners. And that's what you've done. We have a good work product. Working together, you delivered a series of recommendations and strategies to address rising property taxes. In your report, you provided critical recommendations, focusing on measures the legislature could act on in 2025. I want to thank you for your hard work. These are really innovative ideas, and we're going to get to work with them. As evidenced in the pages of the report, you've proven that you're committed to addressing rising property taxes across all of Montana. As I look forward to working with leaders at state agencies to review all of these, and I'm sure we will implement many of them in the upcoming legislature. As I meet with Montanans in every corner of our state, I hear the same concern often, and that is property taxes are just too high, and it's putting a squeeze on Montanans. Between 2001 and 2022, inflation grew each year by an average of 2.4% over that 21-year period, 2.4% every year for 21 years. But the average property tax growth in Montana for that same period grew over 6% per year over that same period. So clearly, property taxes are growing faster than inflation. Property taxes are too high, and they are growing too fast, and they must be reined in so people can stay in their homes. In 2023, we delivered Montana homeowners meaningful property tax relief with the largest property tax rebate in state's history, totaling up to $1,350 in immediate relief both this year and last. These rebates provided the average Montana homeowner with one-time relief that more than offsets the increase that they saw in their tax bill over that same period. We were intentional in delivering that relief to Montanans for their primary residents, meaning those with second or third homes, and those who live outside Montana did not qualify. In fact, the window for the second round of property tax rebate checks opens today, and I would encourage eligible Montana homeowners to visit getmyrebate.mt.gov to get their check and secure their property tax relief. But property tax rebates are only a temporary solution. Montana homeowners need and deserve permanent property tax reforms. That's why we formed this task force. So with that, I'd like to get an update from each of the subcommittee chairs about the top recommendations from each of their committees. So this time I'd like to ask Representative Lou Jones, Chair of the Tax Fairness Subcommittee, to give his update.
Okay, thank you, Governor. And first off, thanks to all the staff that helped us, the DOR, the LFD, all my fellow committee members, and you for working on this system. It made a difference. So we took the name tax fairness seriously. We began our concept by considering what has changed in Montana. 13 million visitors, 21% of the taxable value of the state is now mailed to an out-of-state address. So we recognize that a lot of those folks who are receiving a bill out of state are not paying the Montana income tax. They are not participating in the provision of, well, when I drove down in the Hayes, the $180 million that goes to the fires. Or they're not paying the $1 billion plus we put into education from the income tax side. They're not paying into our public safety, but they benefit from the safe streets. Now that doesn't mean we don't want them here. We like these visitors, we like their homes, we just recognize the economy has shifted. So our recommendation was a combination homestead, Comstead, and the additional 8 of an Agstead exemption. If adopted, this will provide 15 to 20% permanent property tax relief, or potentially to 215,000 Montana homeowners, 130,000 long-term renters, because we've got to take care of our long-term renters. That's where a lot of our workers and young families start, and 32,000 small businesses. It will fund itself in a large part by ensuring that a lot of those folks that don't pay income tax in Montana participate in providing for some of the services they consume. And so I'll keep this brief, but that is a summary of exactly how this system works. Unlike some of the other proposals out there, it limits the transfer between classes of property, right? It ensures out-of-state homeowners participate, or out-of-state non-income taxpayers pay at a higher level. It limits the transfer between properties, and it also does not, like some of the other items do, simply say, well, we're going to fix a property tax problem by taking money from your other problem Montana taxpayer, the income tax side. So again, 215,000 Montana homeowners, 130,000 long-term renters, and 32,000 small businesses would benefit from this proposal, Mr. Governor.
Okay, thank you, Representative. Appreciate that. Now I'd like to ask Education Subcommittee Chair, Representative David Beatty, to give an update on your committee's work.
Well, thank you, Governor Jim Forte. And as you can tell in the report, we took a look at several options and are recommending 3. I'd like to focus on one that is probably most novel in that mix, and that is moving towards a countywide base school levy model. Now, our state school funding formula is designed to ensure equity in the distribution across the state of the tax responsibility for educating the children of Montana. And that currently is met and will in the future continue to be met by a combination of income tax revenue, revenue from a statewide property tax levy, and presently by mandatory local school district levies. What this proposal does is it takes the third of those 3 revenue sources, the mandatory local school district levies, and would replace that with a countywide levy, so that all districts in a county would be levied the same number of mills in order to meet that particular requirement. This has the advantage of promoting equity, and that's easy to see in one of the graphs that we have in the report. Currently, the mandatory district levies vary from 0 mills to around 51 mills. If this proposal is adopted, that range will narrow to 36 to 42 mills for about 99% of the 400 school districts within within the state. That is a big move forward in the equity department. And once again, in order for us to meet our constitutional mandate to provide that basic education to our students and to distribute the tax burden in an equitable manner. And our initial calculations indicate that in doing so, by narrowing these mills to this 36 to 42 mill range, we'll be providing tax relief to approximately 80% of Montana residential property tax payers. Now, we still have work to do on this. As you can imagine, the calculations are complicated, but we are confident that this is a viable way forward and look forward to developing this proposal further.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Beatty. Sounds like an interesting idea to give relief. Last, but certainly not least, I'd like to ask Senator Greg Hertz, Chair of the Local Government Subcommittee, to give his update.
Sure, and thank you, Governor. I want to thank you for assembling this group too. It's been great to work with everybody. I think we've all learned a lot. And yes, property taxes are complicated, but we're continuing to learn. And the sole purpose that we focus on, of course, is reducing property taxes for primarily Montana residents. We have 8 recommendations coming out of the local government committee, a lot of just minor ones, but the one that really I think rises up is our recommendation that voted mills should only be under a dollar amount and not a mill amount. Current law right now, when voters or local government wants to levy mills or dollars for a specific project, they can either choose a dollar amount or a set number of mills. And our recommendation is only to, going forward, to recommend just a dollar amount. Because with the set number of mills, as we've seen, as property values increase and the mills do not change, then we end up getting a windfall and more money than the voters or the local government, recommended originally for that particular project. So this will basically focus on how much money they need for a project. It will allow them to continue to grow that over inflation, but it won't allow for a big windfall, and it will keep property taxes more stable for voters and taxpayers across the state of Montana.
Yeah. Thank you, Senator. Appreciate it. After hearing from each of you, and good work, and reading the report, you've identified a good list of reforms. For my part, I firmly believe that we should move ahead with a homestead exemption to give preference to Montana residents on their primary home. That'll provide good long-term relief. It will also ensure that out-of-staters who don't live here, don't pay income taxes here, and own second homes here pay their fair share, not only for our schools, but law enforcement, roads and bridges, emergency response. And I'm glad to see the task force included that as one of the recommendations. You've laid out other tools that we have in our box for education and for local mill levies. These are innovative tools, and we can use them to address rising property taxes. And we have to use them. Montanans are really counting on us. This report that you've completed will help inform and guide all of us as we head into this next legislative session, as we approach the legislative session to get the job done for the people of Montana. I look forward to working with all of the legislators to implement many of these ideas the task force has recommended. Working together, I'm sure this work of the task force has delivered concrete and specific strategies to address rising property taxes. I want to thank everybody for their work. This is really a job well done. Each member has demonstrated they're committed to arresting the growth of property taxes and particularly for Montanans and their primary residents. I also want to thank Ryan Osmundson for your leadership as chair. Ryan is, of course, the budget director for the state of Montana, and he did a great job of chairing this. Working through 23 diverse viewpoints over 53 topics is no easy task, but over the course of the last 6 months, 3 subcommittees heard from policy experts, executive branch members, legislative staff, and the public. You processed what you heard and delivered these 12 specific recommendations. Again, job well done. I cannot thank all of you enough for your work. I also want to thank our budget office for their diligence in the preparation and the legwork to support these various proposals. And finally, I want to thank all of Montanans who made their voices heard through this process. I look forward to your continued input as we work to rein in property taxes across our treasure state. I'll wrap up my comments with this. Every day I'm focused on opening doors of greater opportunity so more Montanans can thrive, prosper, and achieve the American dream. And every day Montanans work hard themselves to realize that American dream, to earn a decent living, to raise a family, to contribute to their communities, and to retire comfortably and to own a home. I know the task force shares my commitment to addressing rising property taxes and helping more folks achieve this shared American dream. I'm enthusiastic about what the task force has already accomplished. To the task force members, again, I'll just say thank you for your willingness to sacrifice and contribute for the benefit of all Montanans. Thank you all for your commitment to serving Montana. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Governor. I don't have a lot to add. I will say, just for those listening online and the press, there is a digital version of this report at propertytaxreform.mt.gov, so you can find it there. And there's many other resources that were, as we went through this process, they're on that link as well. So please reference that. So with that, I just want to thank all the members for all their time as well. It's been very good working with each one of you. So with that, I think we are done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey.
Yeah.